fundamental right, as you indicated at the beginning of the show, the obligation of the state to respect, promote, and protect rights. It is a constitutional obligation, it's a legal duty, the state must oblige.
And also still, Mr. Mokonyama, on that issue of refuse collection, some communities have resorted into dumping their refuse in their rivers. Have you seen how polluted are our rivers these days? And but you already said that you are also looking into that issue, and hopefully that you'll come up with strong recommendations, especially in rural areas or semi-urban areas where the issue of refuse collection is still an issue. But coming to the last one that we talk about, you also touched on something, that to say that the right to a healthy and safer environment, it's not limited. It's an inherent right. It's not limited to any limitation that might be provided under the Constitution. So now looking at Section 27, it deals with healthcare, food, water, and social security. I remember early in the year when we resumed production here at Lokuhle FM, we were prior to, I think it's prior to the delivery of the State of the Nation address, and then we invited our listeners to just tell us what's happening in their communities. The most pressing issue which most communities or our listeners were worried about is the issue of water. And even yesterday, my colleague, the other colleague that I'm hosting this show with, Mr. Jonathan Lungu, he was also dealing with the issue of water. Mr. Mokonyama, what can we do to ensure that water gets back to our taps? Because our communities are suffering. You know, they even said we are fine with the issue of electricity, but when it comes to the issue of water, that is the most pressing issue in Mpumalanga. And I remember also we decided to interview one of our listeners in Bushbuck Ridge, that region, where she said, I'm 33 now, but for 30 years, we've never had water here in our community. What is it that Mr. Mokonyama, as a Human Rights Commission of South Africa, can do to ensure that water leaves these private water tankers, but they run through our taps, so that everyone who is in South Africa or is in Mpumalanga is able to have or access that water that is supposed to access?
Okay, so firstly, there's a saying that water is life. So I agree with listeners or citizens as they say, water is a very critical resource in our lives. So we have picked up, and we had an engagement last year on the impact of illegal connections and commodification of municipal water. Lately, provision of water has become a very complex project. And maybe even before I proceed, I just want to make one correction. All socio-economic rights in the Constitution or rights in the Constitution are subject to the limitation clause under Section 36.
Yes.
But the right to a safe environment is immediately realizable. So you don't have to be told that there are no resources. You'll enjoy the right to a healthy environment only when there are resources. It's immediately realizable. It's not subject to resources. So back to the issue of water, it is very complex in that because of the challenges brought up by factors such as climate change and drought, and because water itself is a limited resource, we've had instances where municipalities have brought in water tankers to deliver water to communities in situations where there are water
infrastructure, yes,
or the system is under stress, or there are breakages of the system, pipes have burst, and so on. The idea around it was noble, but criminals have taken advantage of this, and we've had instances of reports of the water tankers sabotaging the water supply system so that they can remain in business. And what needs to be done here is the law enforcement agencies in the country should really step up and make sure that instances where water is illegally collected or is being sold, to communities. So this is municipal water, which shouldn't be sold to communities. Those syndicates are reported and action is taken against them because they have a huge impact on the unavailability of water to communities. Where the system becomes sabotaged, then you have a situation where water can't be pumped, or bulk water can't be pumped and pumped to reach communities in high areas. So as a result, they're not able to access water. So in many instances, it is a question of the impact of these illegal connections and commodification. So they go into the municipal reservoirs to get this water